Welcome back to Alan's Trains, and we're going to look at window frames using the sticky label method and a quicker way of applying them. First of all, get all of the parts that are going to have windows in them. I've shown here all of the parts that need the windows. I now take one of the parts to make the window frames for. And as I do this, once I've made the window frames into these openings, which these are the perfect guide to the size that you require, I then place them all so that I can cut all of those windows out on a sticky label and then apply all of the windows in one go rather than try to fit windows one at a time. It's also good to then take one of the parts to the sheet that you're going to work on. Then you can see from the photograph on the left all of the shapes that you want for the window frames. Although this process may seem quite convoluted, once you've learned how to make one window frame, making window frames from this is very simple. The first thing you need to do is to ensure that this is grouped together and not separate items like this. So first of all, just go around and group and use this icon here, which is to group, or you can use object, group there. It does exactly the same. The first step is to find out in this window here, which we're going to look at first, where these 8 panes are going to fit. What's the maximum size you've got to play with is 24.6 by 22.6. Now I found that by just drawing a box and fitting it in there. The second thing is to find out the actual frame is the maximum that it can fit into that space there. Now to allow for the window spaces, I've made this 3 millimeters less on the width and 2.7 on the height because there are less spaces. The next is to create a box for each pane. Now don't worry about the size, just create something around the size you think will fit in there. Now duplicate those frames or that frame 4 times. The next thing is to surround the 4 boxes, which you've got in item 4, and use object to align and distribute. Now if you use this icon here, which is open, align and distribute, or you can go to object, align and distribute there. It'll do exactly the same and it will open this menu. What you need to do is to go to grid and then set it at 2 rows, 2 columns. Go to the setting here and change it to millimeters and change this to 1 millimeter each space. That's horizontal and vertical, and tell it to arrange. And it will make sure that those 4 boxes form like this. Make a duplicate of these so you've got 2 pairs. Then surround them, but don't group, and go back to align and distribute. And this time you're going to go to grid and check that it is 2 rows, 4 columns. Change the setting to millimeters and again 1 millimeter and arrange. You now have the 4 panes ready to check into this space here or to fit into there. It's now time to surround the boxes and group them together. And as you can see, it says adjust to frame maximum 21.6 by 21.9. So go to the width and the height and change it to 21.6 by 21.9. And this will then fit directly into there. Double check the size on the width and the height, then just try it in the window opening. And there is the first window frame ready to go. Now we've completed the previous frames. Let's take a look at how we can make the frames for the rest of the windows. And this can be repeated by using the same method for these walls and for the side walls. So from the previous frame, ungroup and take a set of 4 panes. So just click on there and take the 4 panes away. Now surround and group them. So using the group icon there, they're now a group. We now set the maximum frame opening. The same method as before. Make a box that will fit into the window opening, still allowing for the curved part at the top. Now you've got the surrounded and grouped, change the size of it to 9.3 by 18.2. This will allow this to fit inside this frame opening. And to check that fits in there and also fits into there. So you've now got the same method for making those. Now by repeating this process, you can do the same for these windows here. So this is what the end of the building will look like with most of its frames done. The only thing we need to add are all these semicircles over the top of the windows. Now the easiest way to make those is first of all go to the circle tool. Hold the Control key down and it will draw a perfect circle. If you now want to change that to just the semicircle, which we can do there, that's all you have to do. You can then invert that, which is the easiest way is to go to Select, then use the Invert, and you now have the top for the windows. Unfortunately, that's an open arc. So what we have to do then is just click on that arc on the circle tool, and then you will see that you can change it to a closed arc, which is here. So just click that and it closes the arc. This part here catches out so many people when they don't see it illuminate. Now all you've got to do is decide what size you want it for that. And I'll use the example here for this particular window or these pair of windows. This is the size that you want that would fit perfectly in there. So all you've got to do is work out what the width was, which was from the previous. You knew you want about 8.8. So just lock that height and width in and change that width to 8.8. And then you can see you've got another one ready for the next window. And because you locked width and height, it will keep it as a semicircle. And then you can go through all of the windows exactly the same, changing these sizes to suit, and you soon have all of the frames in place. This is a slightly different one. This is for above the front door. Now that is just simply making 2 quadrants. To draw a quadrant, we use the circle tool, and I've turned the grid on at the back. That was through View and turn Page Grid on. We then click on Select, click on Circle, hold the Control key down and draw a circle. We can then move that circle so that its centre is on the axis of the grid, and then it's easier to draw a more accurate arc. So we now go back to the circle tool and it will illuminate this little red button. Just move that and then you can align the arc a lot better because you can see the grid lines. Once you've done that, go back to the Select tool and you'll see that the arc has been formed. If this had been indicated or this, it would have opened this up. So now we've done that, we can turn the grid off. If we now click on Select and select the arc, we can then turn it around. We now want to duplicate that. So just duplicate it, pull it to one side, turn it around, line the 2 up. You can use it on the grid if you want. Once you've done that, then surround it and make it an object group or use the icon for group. Now obviously that is going to be far too big, so to get the size, Click on the opening and it's 24.6. Now we want at least 1 mil either side, so therefore make it 22.6. So reduce that to 22.6. With the lock on, and then this should fit into the doorway, which it does. So this is what the front of the building will look like with all of the shapes added. The one part I'm going to deal with later in a video is making this using Shape Builder. However, when all of this is complete, this is where the trick is with fitting all those window frames. Instead of doing each of these windows individually on acetate or sticky labels, then acetate, the best thing to do is to take the original frame away. You are now left with all of the frames. So draw a box around them, group them all together, and when you send this to a sticky label, all of this together, then you can then fit all of it in one piece, like that, rather than individual pieces of windows. It saves an awful lot of time, and that can be used with any building. And in the next video, I'll start by designing this for the central window using shape builders. Thanks for watching.